New at 6, the state senator representing one of the most populated areas of the region is facing something rare. Not one, but two challengers in a Democratic primary. And how the state handles the housing crisis could hang in the balance. The future of District 24 is the topic of a lengthy article in this week's edition of Willamette Week. We are joined now by Willamette Week reporter Rachel Monahan. Thanks for being here, Rachel. First off, tell us who these candidates are.
So we have an incumbent state senator, Rod Monroe. He's served 3 consecutive terms in the state Senate, but he was first elected to the legislature in the 70s. So
been around a long time.
He has been around a while. He is generally considered a reliable Democratic vote. Okay. But he has drawn 2 serious contenders to defeat him in the primary, which is incredibly uncommon.
And they are?
They are Shemia Fagan, who was a Democratic legislator in the House. She took a couple years off. She has young kids, and now she's back to challenge him. And Casey Jama, who is executive director of Unite Oregon. Sorry, he's a community organizer.
So what's at stake here in this race?
Well, the reason that Monroe has drawn 2 challengers is because there was a legislative push a year ago to pass more protections for tenants. Right now in Oregon, not everywhere in the U.S., but in Oregon and a lot of places, you can be evicted from your apartment even if you haven't done anything wrong. And your landlord doesn't have to give you a reason why you have to get out. So there was a law that was, or legislation proposed that would have ended that practice for the most part in the state. Monroe is a landlord. And he opposed that legislation along with another piece of legislation would have overturned the state's ban on rent control.
So housing is a big issue for these 2 other candidates.
Housing is. Okay. It is all about housing.
Who's likely to win here, do you think?
Well, the incumbent races generally favor incumbents. What's unique about this is we might have another election in which we see a real change. Fagan has drawn the endorsements of at least three significant public employee unions in the state. We'll see what happens. Jama also has a nonprofit endorsement out in East Portland that means something there. So we'll see.
If one of these challengers wins, what do you think? What do you see as changing first?
Well, I imagine that they will have to make good on their promise around passing some legislation around housing. So we will see. It's interesting in the state Senate. We don't hear a lot about it, particularly nationally. But the state Senate is a place where there's usually legislation is passed. There's a bipartisan support for legislation that's passed. So, maybe we might see less of that. We'll see.
Okay. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. Interesting article. You can read the entire thing in this week's edition of Willamette Week on newsstands now. The article is also available online at wweek.com. Catherine?